Just which of these three running backs is going to have the best 2025? CJ Baxter at Texas, Mai Hughes at Oregon, or CJ Donaldson at Ohio State? What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If that is something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Which of these three tailbacks do you think will have the better 2025? CJ Donaldson at Ohio State, Mai Hughes at Oregon, or CJ Baxter at Texas? Also going to take this opportunity to remind you that we have an audio podcast on Spotify and Apple. And for those of you that are willing to go to Apple and Spotify and leave us a 5-star review, I am willing to send you one of these stickers in the mail with a handwritten thank you note from me because it means that much. So go ahead, do that, and then fill out the form in the description below, and I will put your sticker in the mail. So I was looking at this, and I know that running backs aren't really a big deal in as far as offseason content is concerned. People really don't like showing up for running back segments. However, I'm fascinated by the running back position, especially as it continues to evolve in modern college football. If for no other reason than we still were able to have a group of 6 tailback finished Heisman runner-up last year in a season where he rushed for 2,600 yards and took Boise State to a place that USC still hasn't gone, which is the college football playoff. A place that Ole Miss still hasn't gone, which is the college football playoff. A place that Florida still hasn't gone, college football playoff. Now, I'm looking at these other spaces, and I've seen some outstanding tailbacks come out of these places, like Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson of late at Ohio State. So what are you doing? You're banking on James Peoples coming on real big, real strong. Same thing with Bo Jackson, I think. But also, you're looking at CJ Donaldson, who did not show up here to not carry the rock. And I'm sure that that's what Carlos Loughlin wants from him. But the thing that I find interesting about CJ Donaldson is, A, he showed up to West Virginia as a tight end. And then they moved him to tailback, and they found something. You realize that this man had 4 100-yard rushing performances in 7 games in 2022. But that number has steadily decreased with each year. As a matter of fact, he hasn't been that great against what we call class competition. This is going to be a reoccurring theme. He had just 1 100-yard rushing performance in 2024. Now, West Virginia also ends up going a different way with the head coach, so there's something to that. But he also has dropped about 20 pounds since getting to Ohio State. They made him lighter. They've made him faster. I'm sure he's going to keep more of his physicality and his power than you would expect, but this is a dude that was running around about 243 when he was running the rock at West Virginia. I just would like to see him return to his 2022 form in 2025, given the kind of talent that will be around him, not just at wide receiver quarterback, but on the offensive line. I think he's already going to upgrade by running behind this offensive line at Ohio State that's coming off of winning a national championship. And it's a man who is very hungry to show the NFL that he has the juice that he displayed in 2022. If he kept the ratio, right, we're talking about a guy that would probably rush for 100 yards half the time, every other game. But he also was splitting reps, which can bite into this. But again, I just would like to see the guy that he was in 2022 show up in 2025. Same thing kind of true with Mai Hughes to some extent. Okay, let me back up here. Mai Hughes has been eating up yards. 1,300, 1,400-yard rusher at Tulane. Great tailback. Was really good against SC in their Cotton Bowl. But I'm also looking at a guy who hasn't rushed for 100 yards against a Power 4 opponent yet. Like, he went for about 88 or so against Vod Tech in 2023, and he got stymied by Florida, 8 for 29. I get running for a bunch of yards. I do. But against teams that are, we think, playing for college football playoff spots, like the ones that Oregon are going to see, is he still capable of this? Now, some of this I think is, hey, the schedule's a schedule. He plays in the American, right? They're going to play Navy. They're going to play Memphis. They're going to play Temple. They're going to play Tulsa. You're going to beat up on some bad teams, UTSA. But I want to see that translate. And I know the reputation that Oregon has with its offensive line and its ability to run the football. So I'm hoping that translates, because you get a guy like him, perhaps you have another Bucky Irving, right? Bucky, who showed up from Minnesota and all of a sudden became one of the more explosive tailbacks in the sport at Oregon. Same thing is true of Noah Whittington. So I think there's a rule here that we get to follow for Oregon, which is if you get to play tailback at Oregon, you're probably going to run for a bunch of yards, probably going to get a lot of opportunities to run for a bunch of yards. But again, I just want to see him do it against class opponents like the ones he'll face in the Big Ten week in, week out. And remember, Oregon is the defending Big Ten champion, and Oregon expects to compete for the national championship this year, next year, the year after. They're still trying to win their first, but for that to happen, you're going to need a guy like Mai Hughes to bust up Penn State when they play for 100-plus yards. You want to need him to turn into some version of what they had at Quinshawn Judkins at Ohio State, what they have in Nick Singleton at Penn State, what they had in Blake Corum at Michigan. The Big Ten is still that place where you can still be a dominant tailback. I'm also thinking about guys like Caleb Johnson at Iowa. It's there for you, right? It's there for you. I just need to see it. And then the last guy, CJ Baxter, who hasn't carried a football against other people since they played Washington in the college football playoff in 2024, January 1, 2024. Blew out his ACL right before they got to playing ball. And then Quintravion Wiesner comes up, and he's the 1,000-yard back that's going to probably start the season as RB1. But anybody that's seen CJ Baxter run with the football knows that guy's got all the juice there is. Of these three guys, I believe he's the most talented. Of these three guys, I think he's the one that's most capable of rushing for 1,500 yards. And of these three guys, I think he's the one that the head coach most wants to see the ball in his stomach. Steve Sarkisian, one of the first things he said to me when we were talking about Bijan Robinson and getting to Texas was, hey, I've had a 1,000-yard back everywhere I go. It's very important to me. If people want to talk about how we throw the ball and how, Mac Jones at Alabama was able to move the ball down the field to guys like Devontae Smith, right? Jalen Waddle. But if you look at this, we did a bunch with our tailbacks like Najee Harris. Having a guy that can carry the rock for us has always been important, and he showed that in 2024. He lost the number one tailback on the depth chart, number 3 tailback on the depth chart, Christian Clark. And he came back with Quintravion Wiesner and Jared Gibson. And one of those guys turned out to be the 1,000-yard back that you could depend on to go get you hard yards and really carry that offense when it was time to go on 3rd and short. Really impressive stuff to do. Now, you get your top-tier, next-level, RB1 talent, the kind of guy that I think could get drafted in the first round with a good year in CJ Baxter back. But it's the ACL. We want to see that he is healthy. We want to see he's still explosive. We want to see that he can still cut and get upfield and then take the contact, get back up, bounce up, go back to the huddle. I think that's all in the cards for a guy like him. I think the offensive line is going to be just fine. I think he's going to get help with Arch Manning and his ability to move around in the pocket, how people are going to have to defend 11 players or at least 2 different rushers anytime you have Arch Manning in the backfield. If we don't see some Texas spread, I'm going to be very upset because I think with this dude, with Arch Manning, with CJ Baxter, you could have another Vince Young, Jamal Charles type of offensive game plan if you want it. It's not necessarily what Steve Sarkisian is going to do. They do a lot of RPO. They do a lot of misdirection. RPO also means you're going to be handing the ball off, right? But if you can get into a spot where you can make people respect Arch Manning's legs in a point where you have a defensive end that's got to stand up and wait, you got everything you want with CJ Baxter. So of those 3 guys, I think CJ Baxter is in the best position to have a breakout season. I think CJ Donaldson probably on the best team. And Mai Hughes is the biggest wild card of the 3, but if we're keeping with what Oregon has done recently with transfer running backs, he's going to be just fine.